All right, I'll just give it a little bit of time to buffer the stream before I get started talking, but I'm going to repeat what I just said before I restarted the stream. Uh, today, this Monday class is going to be a semi-self-driven class. We are going to be meditating on on the work of Mamoru Oshii's uh, work on the movie Patlabor 2. We'll also be looking at some of his other work too, but this will be the main thing we'll be looking at. I'm actually going to be screening the film in my Discord probably sometime tomorrow. We got a taste of it a little bit earlier today, but it's a pretty heavy film and it deals with a lot of really geopolitical issues. It's a hard sci-fi film that is very, very grounded in reality, both politically and with the way it handles machine like mecha and future robotics and stuff. It was made like in the early '90s, I believe. But it's a fantastic classic of a film. Its soundtrack, among other things, is one of the many things that's aged remarkably well, and it's fantastic animation, and that holds up today. And the questions it poses uh really haven't changed all that much. The movie is mainly about a military coup that happens in Japan, where the JSDF forces try to basically like take over the country, which is what happened essentially. Like the military taking over the country is what happened with the Imperial Japanese taking over the country in World War at the start of World War II. So this is like ghosts coming back to haunt, basically. And anyway, so like the plot of there's a lot of really difficult questions that the movie asks, mainly to do with like the Cold War and so on. And so in the film, there's a lot of like recurring motifs that are very kind of like correlated to people's attitudes towards
The soundtrack
the
so
city at the
fucking
time.
good.
Like you see, notice a huge crowd of people. There's lots and lots of like. There's a recurring motif of the freedom that birds have and flocks of birds. Like the birds in the scene. Like the people are looking at the monitor up there. They're not looking at the tank, but they're also looking at the monitor up there. Um, it's kind of like the people are looking at the tank and then looking at the screen up there and wishing that they could be the birds flying away from this awful
Spacedad,
situation.
quick FYI, you're muted on Discord.
Okay. Yeah. I'll unmute. Yeah, I didn't synchronize my unmute on my console switch. Yeah, so I'm good now in real time there. But yeah, like there's a recurring motif of birds all throughout the film, and you can even see like these kids here kind of echo a lot of like flocks of grounded seagulls that you see at certain points of the film. Um, there's yeah, more birds. There's also like a recurring theme of mirrors and mirrored surfaces, like refracting things in odd ways throughout the film too. And the film is basically kind of like reflecting questions that Mamoru Oshii posed people back at the audience, basically. This is a really interesting composition. Like it's upside down because it's a mirror. It's like you're this is like you're under an overhang, a mirrored overhang in like that you'd see in a city. These little kind of like visual elements that kind of feel true to being in an actual city. And look at this strange scene here where there's um, the coup mongering JSDF uh, military unit there, and there's just like a bunch of scenes of civilian life going on behind them. Um, this lady's kind of like looking at the soldier and kind of giggling and stuff, and this guy's like really worried right here, kind of motioning her, pulling her away. Um, It's like there's this kind of disbelief, but also like fear and caution going on, like two contrasting attitudes right there. But yeah, there's a lot of really great that sequence in particular keeps getting cited a lot anytime this film gets caught up, like this whole
Mhm.
thing right here for the soundtrack and everything. There's a lot of different motifs that that Mamoru Oshii uses a lot in his film. One of them is the fisheye lens. Now, fisheye lens would obviously, this is a lot harder. You have to animate this in like perspective, pretty much by hand. So this is a pretty tricky shot to handle. You can see that they also use some like that. Like this is a really tough shot to handle right here, but you can see that they do use some shortcutting tricks here and there to not have to draw so much detail. Like on this one, it's just a still image with a moving shadow, and then there's like this repeating like light moving in perspective over there. And then you get this wall, you get close up of this wall where you're just seeing the light here, and it's just like text and repeating walls moving in simple walls moving in perspective. So you get like a sense of the overall area. But then there's this shot right here, which is like a this one they might have I think they might have used CG as like a reference point for it, but they probably had to like draw from the reference by hand. But the reason why he like Mamoru Oshii likes to use a lot of moving shots in his films, like camera moving shots, which are really hard to do in 2D animated production, especially for the time when CG animated films really hadn't when CD animation in films was not really a huge thing. So they had to do a lot more, like most of the stuff by hand. Sometimes they, even at this time period, they were using like computer assisted tools for to achieve these sorts of shots. Let's see. Yeah, I was looking for this one. Yeah, this is all by hand, my folks. Oh, this is all by hand. They probably might have used a might have used a reference shot for this though, like filming a live action actor or something. But you see, that's it's a really cool bit of animation there, where like you can actually see like these shadows changing on his, like notice like the background shadows don't change position, but his face does, because his face is moving away from the light, following the camera. Just really neat. All hand animated, folks. And then there's this shot right here. You can see like so this trick right here, in order to they still have to plan out everything here, but then they don't have to like refine the details as much. It's just about like getting those like bright highlights against the black backdrop right there, which is easier than having to do every single detail of the buildings. These moving back. The problem of moving backgrounds in 2D animated productions, Japan came up with a lot of solutions for that, and this is one of them right here. Look at that. Of course, these days, like you could use all kinds of like 3D animation tools to simplify the process on this. Even physically drawing your animation in your 2D animation of your characters in these frames, like with Blender and stuff like that. Yeah, this is a very much a hard sci-fi film, so you see a lot of stuff very heavily grounded in reality. This kind of film, the technical animators, the technical animators on it really had to like, or the tech-focused animators really had to like know their shit about like just how hardware works in general and industrial design and so on, in order to like understand how like this machinery works, moves and behaves and stuff. Or like how like sci-fi mecha like this might work or move plausibly. in kind of a near future reality. So there's a mix of like real world equipment, and like the mecha sci-fi stuff. So this is a little domestic scene right here. Like nothing was left to waste in this film. I mean, this is still like an exquisitely this is like an exquisitely crafted scene right here. And there's like little moments. There's little. The film is very very somber, but there's moments of levity in it, like this. Because there was always there was always humor in the Patlabor series, undercutting some of the harsher themes. But the movie is like quite a bit more harsher in its subject matter um, than anything else in the franchise, or the Patlabor 2 specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that this scene might be a good starter scene to work on because there's a nice mix of shots. This is a low camera angle with a door opening, character walking towards the camera, and his foot actually coming up to reveal her. Like it's a composition that sets us up. Let's think about like this how this shot works. For example, you start with a door. Like the perspective is leading towards the door, so our eyes are immediately focused on the door. The door is the most interesting shot in the animation. Door opens, character standing there. We don't see his face. We just see his body. But like from earlier in the film, we can kind of infer what character this is based on their silhouette if we've seen him before previously. So there he is. He's got his shoes off because he's in a domestic scene. He's that immediately like shows us where he is. He's in the you see like a futon in the background. You see like some apartment looking side of a building there with windows and stuff. You see like the ledge of like an apartment balcony, curtains, and a futon and all that. So we immediately know that this is a civilian scene, and that's further reinforced by his wife sliding across the floor here on her stomach. Of course, sitting on the floor on a futon, you'd be at floor level usually in a Japanese domestic setting. So she was probably sitting on her knees, like nearby, and just like jumped around there to tell him to wait. That, and she was also with the kid. So there he is. He's putting on his shoes. Here's their toddler coming over. And this scene right here is important for setting up the stakes of like how important, like why these characters are like facing down what they're facing. Like this guy is going out to face down the military coup that's going on. This is one of the Patlabor police force guys that have to face against the coup by the JSDF that took over the country. And one of the underlying themes of the film is that even if like the peace of the world of like the Cold War era and stuff is fake, the lives of the people living inside that illusion are no less valuable. Like they still have to live their lives, and that could be what's at stake within that illusion. She is like, I forget. I need to see the film so I know what exactly they're saying here and what the full context of the scene is. But yeah, there's his work buddies coming to get him.
Mechanics for the Patlabors, and they need them to go repair the labors so they can go fight.
Yeah. Thank you. I need to see the. It's been ages since I saw the movie, so I've forgotten like almost everything. I saw it when I was really young, so I didn't really get the full gravity of everything that's in the movie. I want to rewatch the whole thing because I think it's a really interesting movie. Some really good animation. This is very kind of exaggerated acting from her up there. Very humanistic. There's an interesting contrast between like moments of more levity like that in the film and much more like deadly serious stuff. It's like much more grounded in like military hardware and like tense moments of psychological drama and intrigue of what's going on. So I'm gonna find us a shot that might be good to practice from, possibly. But yeah, here's the bird motif I was talking about being echoed again towards the end of the film. This is these seagulls almost kind of symbolize like the population of Japan, Tokyo, back there. Yeah, this is one of the earliest scenes in the film, actually. Like, the film opens with like a really like bad like military squad situation going sour, basically. Like this unit gets wiped out. This UN peacekeeping unit of JSDF forces gets wiped out because they're not allowed to fire. They're not allowed to fire back on the targets that are attacking them. And that kind of sets in motion the events of the film. Like the leader of the coup is the surviving member of that squad that got wiped out. Need to rewatch this film, but I think the dog is like showing them that, oh, the gas isn't real gas or something, it's fake or some shit. Oh yeah, this scene right here. These guys they've just been told that these guys normally are like in charge of like buying like supplies for the like lunches for people and stuff for the unit. For the Patlabor unit, but because the coup's been declared, they've now been turned into the hoarding unit. Now they've got to like hoard lots of food supplies because the Patlabor unit is going to have to be autonomous during the coup. And then one of their commanding officers comes in and chastises them for picking more perishable goods than picking like the picking stuff that would be more non-perishable, that would have longer shelf life. Stuff like little details like that kind of help ground the reality of the film, which is really like there's lots of little moments throughout the film where you get reminders of even though this is a fictional reality, there's like details of reality like that, attention to detail that gets taken in, like. And in this case, they actually made levity out of like two characters overlooking like one of those details. But I always like that, especially in like really good hard sci-fi and really good hard sci-fi anime. It does a really good job of like really doing a ridiculous amount of research into, well, here, actually, this shot right here is what I might want to open up with doing my first studies for today. So I'm going to be doing my studies in Clip Studio for this evening. So I'll open up a new document for this. What we're going to be doing is we're just going to be continually grabbing shots. I would suggest going to Sakugaburo here and finding shots from. You can either find stuff from the Patlabor 2 movie, or actually Patlabor 1 is the same director. So you can use shots from this too. And we're gonna, yeah, no, that's from the franchise actually. Here's movie 1, I believe. Yeah, this is movie 1. Even in movie 1 though, there's like good shots to reference and stuff like this. He uses fisheye lens a lot in the first movie. One of Emir Oshi's things. But this is a particularly iconic shot from the film, from the second Patlabor movie. I'm going to be maybe using this as my opening study. It's kind of funny, like the here's the animation layout for the shot right here. And then the storyboard. Let me see if here's the storyboard. So you see how crude that is, because they did these really quickly. Like you can see how like quickly and crudely they laid these out. These characters aren't really on model, but you have to recognize them in order to understand the storytelling and stuff. This is from, I believe, this is from one of the Patlabor storyboard books.
I tried looking for Japan. Super hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope I can find some stuff. I want to find more like anime production books. There's those kind of, those kinds of books that they get published just in Japan usually. You can usually find it like import stores and stuff. So anyway,
Find a surprising amount of them on Kinokuniya.
yeah, that's the main place that everyone gets them from. So let's see here. I'm gonna save this. Save as. Make this my Monday class. Today is gonna be like a cinematic study day. 2021 class demos. Monday cinematic studies. Patlabor 2. Cool. Wait, that's 2-1. Silly me.
The fuck was that?
Someone's doing background noise on Discord.
Why you walked over to Jason and Jason was all like,
Here.
Blue Wolf.
Yeah, Blue Wolf. I'm just gonna have to. I'm not gonna server mute them. I'll just temp mute them for me. So anyway, for this, for doing these studies, just get whatever tools you're comfortable with using. Make some space for yourself to draw. If you're using the extended Sakugaburo plugin, which is on Chrome, yeah, here it is. Here's the link for it right here. You install that in Chrome, and you should be able to do frame by frame on Sakugaburo. I'm gonna put on some stream beats real quick. There we go. Now we got some royalty free to jam with in the background. Let's see. I'm actually going to make some proper pseudo 16:9. Well, here let's do this actually 16:9, because I believe the film is 16:9 aspect ratio. Thankfully. There we go. I just need like one of these. Make a little template for myself. All right, now I got a little 16:9 panel I can use for these studies. I'm gonna make a big old page out of this. I'll maybe make a template and upload it to the Discord chat for people to use. So what's neat about doing these cinematic studies is you can also make them you can make them an opportunity to practice composition, to practice a little bit of figure drawing or character drawing. And other aspects of drawing. It doesn't have to just be like cinematic studies in a vacuum. Add a little bit. Canvas size. My canvas size is a little bit ridiculous. I might want to adjust that a bit. I don't need that much resolution to do this. Let's drop it to about, let's see, 4500 should be okay. There we go, save that, and then now I'll save a copy of this as a template. You can resize this as you need. 16:9 panels template. I'll just upload that to the drawing corner. I'm gonna have to turn on a fan. This is I'm roasting here. Might have to open the window at some point. You hear some cars behind me. That's right. All right, so there's a few things we can do with this. You could do a freehand study of this, or you could do a draw-over study of scenes like this. If you're doing a draw-over study, here, let me get the other keyboard out here. You can use the print screen key. There we go. You can use the print screen key and just copy paste whatever you got in there. As you can see, like I've got like a kind of a ridiculous amount of stuff open. The array of the 3 monitors that I'm using right here. So you want to get a third and a fourth in the future, because that'll make my life easier doing these streams.
Spacedad, if you do Alt print screen, it'll take just the one monitor that's active.
Ah, that's good to know.
And if you want to be a little bit more precise, you can just open up the Windows search menu and just grab the snip tool.
Yeah, I have the snip tool on my taskbar. Yeah, I should have done that. Honestly, I could do this. Like, here's the snip tool. Like that. But I don't need to do that now. I did this. So I got these guys in here. I'm just going to do like a draw over study. This is an opportunity for me to practice a little bit of figure drawing stuff on these characters and a little bit of like, remember that face wedge if you've been in my previous classes in here. So I want people to do a mix of draw over studies, trying to absorb little bits and pieces from like the characters, how the characters are placed in the scene, and maybe get like a little bit of character figure drawing practice from doing a draw over or a copy study of these panels. Also try to think about why the scene storytelling is the way it is. Obviously, you're gonna need to see the film to really see the context in which this scene plays out. But it's during a really tense scene, where they're uncovering like evidence of a plot, where they're being shown evidence of a plot of like a military coup. These two officers are being shown this by a one of the people that's one of the bureaucrats for the JSDF that's uncovered the coup and is showing them the evidence. So I'm just doing a little bit of kind of a study of like a breakdown of his face a little bit, maybe get like some of his shoulders in there, because the shoulders go through his body. You notice everything's very warped because this is in a fisheye perspective lens. The effect of a fisheye lens motif, often in that I've seen, at least how Mamoru uses it. He often uses it when the POV is often like from a camera or from a monitor, I've noticed. So it becomes this kind of weird reflexive cinema thing where the eye of the audience is literally a camera or a fictional camera. Shots like this are like they take from live action. Like the using a fisheye lens effect is a very live action thing, but these characters are warped in a way that stands out in hand-drawn animation. Like the unsettling way that like characters' faces get warped, or sometimes they look really cool when they're stylized in a fisheye effect. But this like plays to the strengths of the medium kind of, while borrowing from the strengths of live action a little bit. But yeah, a 5-point perspective of a fisheye lens is pretty tricky. Like you're talking about like here, let me do a little 5-point grid, for example. When you talk about 5-point grid, you're talking about like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, so you got a vanishing point back here. You got a vanishing point up here, and you got a vanishing point up here, and everything curves. like that. Everything curves and appears to kind of bulge. The reason why it's doing that is because of the aperture angle of the light that's being taken in is a lot wider than like what would normally be apparent to a human eye. But you see, 5 points not so intimidating when you know how it works and you can just freehand the idea, and you can always work out like something a little more exact later, and no one's gonna bite your head off if you're doing like freehand fisheye sketches, and they're not quite completely accurate perspective. But anyway, like Fisheye Lens, that's just another tool of a tool belt of cinematic storytelling for animation, or for anything really, but for us specifically, it pertains to animation. But yeah, you see like this could either be like we're looking at a bunch of blocks in space, or this could be a character placed in here. For example, standing on some pavement here, or something. Or that we could be looking down on a city. Just any number of things, really. Anyway, so I'm not going to really map out the perspective in this shot. I mainly just want to get, but I do want to like know like what's happening there and how that works. So the physical relationships between the characters is something to pay attention to in this shot for sure. This character is actually more central to the story right here. Again, I need to watch the whole film to get the full context, but this character plays a pivotal role, and she's essentially the closest thing to a protagonist in the film. And at first it doesn't really seem like she's going to be, but she sort of evolves into that. But it's interesting, like, the way they have her staged here, like, we have much more of an emphasis on the faces of these two guys right here. But she's kind of subsumed into the background, so while we get like this kind of warpy look on their faces, like I think that you could, like, these guys look really, really weird and warped, but we wind up identifying with her more because she's like the most approachable looking face. That's like the least warped of them in the foreground. The impression that I get from this is that she's someone who would probably keep her cool a little bit better than maybe even these two. As far as like paranoia goes and stuff, I mean, like the guy on the left is not an idiot by any means. The guy on the right I wouldn't call him incompetent. Yeah. So the overall impression we're left with in the shot, like now that I've kind of just done like a little kind of study of the figures and so on. Want to maybe turn this off. We get that. I lower the opacity on this, and then take some blue line, and then I'm going to use the blue line to just get like the physical relationships of the characters in. Like there's this guy here. She's back here. And this guy here. This guy is deliberately an unsettling character too. Like he's because of like everything that he does, you have to like kind of take him seriously, but he looks like really off-putting because he's got like kind of a lazy eye thing, which actually plays into some visual. They do some visual play motifs. Like there's a close-up shot in this film with these two characters right here, looking inside a fish tank at a fish that's looking back at them. So the film is basically being self-referential about its use of fisheye lens effects. And of course playing with the idea of like who's on what side of the tank really. Who's on what side of the fish tank? Which is of course playing with the audience a bit, like on what side of the fish if this film is a fish tank, what side of the fish tank are we on? As far as like the questions that it poses about militarism and other things that the film philosophizes about. Characters looking at stuff is a really, really common recurring motif in a lot of movies in general. You see that they get really extreme there, really pushed. It's really, really cramming in there to try to get a look at they're looking at. But like the human instinct, the human drive to want to see what other people are looking at. When you see other people looking at something, that's something that goes back to our evolutionary past, to social group animals that respond with mirror neurons to other animals and other members of our pack that are looking at something to alert us of danger or of information that we need to be aware of. And a lot of film, with how it stages characters looking at things that are off camera, plays with that a lot. Steven Spielberg is known in particular for doing a lot with the characters looking at things off-camera motif. But that's a device that is very, very commonly used in all kinds of filmmaking. These characters are all cramming. They're cramming together almost like otaku, like otaku who are like looking at some kind of limited edition thing or something in a weird way. So you can kind of relate to them in that regard if you're an anime otaku. But this is like a tense conspiracy being uncovered. Oh yeah, he really gets into frame. Look at that. They just become like a massive eyes. Like every other feature in their face is just completely wiped out by how close they are in there at the end. They just become a massive eyes. Like their mouth, even her mouth is covered up in the composition there. And of course we see like this guy's lazy eye is being actually covered up by his by the glare in his glasses right now. So we only see his one good eye. We only see one of her eyes. We see both of his eyes. Interesting visual choice to cover up the lazy eye here, so that we kind of take his gaze a little bit more seriously and aren't as off-put. You can see the lazy eye pupil over there in that shot. See if we can find some other shots that'd be worth analyzing. I mean, there's plenty to dig through, really. Yeah, there's this sequence here. We'll definitely do that. I'm just going to do a quick overview of the shots that we have here. Picked from. Oh yeah, here's a really, actually we might do this one because there's a, this involves like placement with characters and overhead perspective. So I think in this scene that they've been detained by like some JSDF people or something, and they're there's some bureaucrat bodyguard types, and they're getting ready to pull like an extrajudicial thing basically to stop the coup. So they're springing during a moment of opportunity, a quick trap on the two guys guarding them. So let's see here. I'll screenshot this myself. Whoops, 1 second. So I'm gonna screen grab this for myself. I think I can like copy this, can I? Yeah, I can. It's copied directly into the app, having to save the image, which is handy. Surprisingly close to the size of the image too. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect, just as long as you get it in there close enough to do a compositional study. So again, take these at your own pace. You don't have to do the ones that I'm doing, but just grab some shots from the film off Sakugaburo and start like kind of analyzing them a bit. Like here, here's a scene that's like heavily grounded in perspective. We can see where one vanishing point is going towards, for sure. It's way down in there. There's more vanishing points than that. There's another vanishing point that's going off over this way. It's another vanishing point. Now this is not, what we're looking at is not fisheye. This is 3-point perspective. So we got a vanishing point that's going to be down like here. What's really cool is like the angle that they chose. Like you can actually, like if they remove the floor of the bottom of the elevator, you could basically see like a pit of the elevator just going down and down and down and down the elevator shaft, which definitely gives a nice sense of vertigo to this shot. But yeah, there's a vanishing point that's going up over there, and a vanishing point that's going up over there. Thankfully, the box shape of this elevator makes it really easy to track where their perspective is. So I'm not going to worry about plotting my vanishing points. I'm just going to use like the guideline that they've already drawn for me to make a grid. I'm going to make a floor grid right here. I'm going to like pretend that my vanishing point is somewhere off over that way and kind of adjust the lines accordingly. This is freehand perspective that I'm doing, but I'm using the draw over that I'm doing here as a guide. And the idea behind doing this is you just start like getting used to wrapping your head around perspective a little bit more, so you can use it freely when you're like thumbnailing your own shots or your own ideas. So likewise, there's going to be like perspective grid going up here for this wall. Like a shot like this would be a really good time. I actually would want to see the layout for this shot that they used for animation, but for a storyboard, if you get a shot like this, it sometimes might be a good idea to do like a full grid or rough grid on the walls to really spell out like what angle everything is at and so on. Close because we can infer where this vanishing point is. Like, vanishing point is probably somewhere around here. So if we were to draw more of this scene in like kind of a really weird, splayed out point of view, we could probably judge the line of that part of the elevator going up that way, I bet. Here's the actual. Is that the actual floor? Yeah, this is the actual floor tile of the elevator right here. Just about. Here's the one wall, another wall, another wall. So I'm just using the black line to kind of divide those up by like what plane of the surface that is, to make it easier to differentiate them. So now I'm going to, let's see, let's maybe make, so let's make this guy, I'm gonna do like a quick kind of rough in study as if I was like roughing in the perspective for him a little bit. But I won't even really start with quite the pose. I'd just like try to get like some kind of a placement of like his general physical presence there before I work on the specifics of the pose. For her, I'll probably use I'll use a blue. Whoops. Or I'll use like a navy blue or something. It's because of her hair color and her character presence in the film. Kind of feels very navy blue for me. So I'll color code her with navy blue. Maybe dark blue is probably not the best choice. She's leaning against the back of the elevator, but again, I'm not really worried too much about like the specifics of her pose. I'm just trying to get like block in her her placement in the shot. Because like once you get like a block in of like a quick little doodle block in of a character, you can use that as a reference point. Okay, so these other two guys, maybe I'll make one of them, because I want to differentiate them. If I'm like cutting between shots, I'll do this guy here. Get like kind of a cube around his body a little bit here, following the perspective of the shot. That guy's that color, and this guy will probably be maybe like green. So we know which of these guys is which when there's action happening between the shots or during the cuts. Probably the last thing I'll do is I'll do another quick little draw over of the background grid a little bit. So let's see what happens in the sequence here. So in the elevator, then everything goes to red and the elevator shakes due to like apparently like a power outage or some shit. The guards stumble. This guy takes a beat to kind of realize what's going on, and then he takes the opportunity. And then she follows up too. And she saves his ass. So, with that in mind, we're going to duplicate this. Sorry about the noise behind me, by the way. Again, like, it's just a sad fact of me having to leave the window open. Just get these out of here. Okay, those are all good. Alright, so I'll duplicate this. So I'm using the same shot, just copy pasting it, because no need to redraw what's already there. But I'm just going to change the pose of the characters. So this guy looks like he slides down a little bit. Let's kind of approximate about where they are in this shot right here, just before the cut. But I have a good frame of reference here from my previous drawing, so I'm gonna move him down a bit. He's got his hand out over here, pressed against this wall here. Slid down a bit, kind of bracing himself on the floor there. Just gonna keep this nice and loose and quick, as long as I get it like in the ballpark. I'll do the green guy next. He takes kind of a tumble forward. So his head's about here-ish. Shoulders are kind of shifted down. He's kind of stepped forward too, to try to catch his fall. That's all I really need for that. The navy blue. So she kind of really goes against the wall here. She really braces herself there with her shoulder and her body. It's kind of neat. And then this guy over here, let's see what he does. He goes like through a severe pose change. He goes like all the way down there. All the way here is like his arm is like turned. He like turns his back towards her. Here against the wall. It's like both of these guys were like completely taken off guard by this. I need to see the full context of the film, so I don't know if these two characters knew that this was coming.
I don't mean to sound like a know-it-all, but I love this movie. The terrorists or the people who are doing the coup, they just launched the EMP at the police station radio tower. That's why the building's shaking.
Yeah. So they're using like the cover of the people launching the coup to like, like, oh shit, we got to take charge of the situation and stuff. Tomorrow I want to screen the full film because I'm planning on doing more studies from them and few more studies of them tomorrow for sure. But also, well, we're also going to be doing like the next step of the Alex Wu gesture drawing stuff tomorrow. But yeah, I want to screen the whole film so we know what the whole context is of the storytelling a little bit better. Yeah, so for this shot, now we got like first things first, let's plot out like where everything is. So this, I believe, is the plane change right here of the elevator. I think the perspective is going something like this. And I'm basing that on like the angle of this guy's shoulders and the angle of his eyes there. That would be my guesstimation. So this is a camera angle that's like a slight upshot where the camera's placed in the elevator with them. Just gonna make it like a rough perspective grid here. Let's see how the continuity matches up with their posing too. Really good, actually. Look at that, look at that. So this guy ends up over here bracing himself, turned against the wall. The camera would be down like underneath him a little bit. His arm would be like up over the camera here or something where we couldn't see it. Her arm against the wall back there is continuity from the last shot too, although she's a little bit closer to him here. But that's kind of hard to say because like her angle, the angle of her arm is a little weird. But yeah, there's always going to be like minor continuity things. Like these aren't 3D puppets posed out in the shot, and even in 3D animation, stuff like that between shots would be cheated slightly. So this is just like a guesstimate. Oh, we got a little perspective guide there, actually. Yep. See, look at that. That's about what I thought it would be, right there. You can see the perspective on that thing back there. So that's close enough for the purposes of this study, as far as the perspective goes. So I'll lower the opacity on that. I'll get like the first few poses of him. I might even just do like a freehand study here. Let me see if I'll pick my first pose here of him. He's doing continuity from the last shot where he's looking up right there. Bracing his palm against the wall there. Arms really up there with his hand. I'm not gonna like dwell too much on like getting too much detail, and I just want like the basic placement of him. Little indication that he's got his palm on there. And then we got this guy, the green guy in the foreground here. Gonna have him coming in here, cutting across with his hand out. Not like this. Just a little fill there. Just gonna differentiate him a little. And let's see, navy blue. Let's get her in there. And then orange guy. Just mass him in where he takes up the compositional space here. Like, we don't have to do every single frame of animation for this. I'm going to try to get like the main beats of what's going on here. So let's see. Let's duplicate this. Take this down here and I'll use the same grid. But I'm probably going to screenshot again. I want the beat where he realizes what's going on before he strikes. So this one right here. Yeah, film storytelling, one of those recurring things. One of those recurring things that I definitely dig. I made him blue instead of red. It's not a big deal. We'll just do him red on this one. One of those recurring motifs in film is reversal of a, especially like in action and thriller movies, is a reversal of a situation where characters take advantage of the chaos of a situation in order to do a reversal of the power role or something. In this case, turning the tables on the people who have taken, who are escorting them off, holding them captive by taking advantage of a chaotic situation. And you can see that moment of realization when he realizes the opportunity that's going on right now. When he sees this guy doubling over in front of him. And that actually goes to the nature of the Patlabor characters too. They are a scrappy bunch of misfits that are more chaotic, more like, they're more in tune with like being able to react to chaotic situations than other more kind of like formalized bureaucratic types might. And that is essentially one of the reasons why they're one of the few people, why they're probably the only people that can really resolve the situation of the coup in the film. Get him in there. Get the navy blue back there. So these are just one way to do film studies. There's other ways you can do like shot breakdown and so on, but this is the method that I'm using right now for this, just as a kind of way to kind of dig in through the shots, sort of analyze them, and paying close attention to the placement of the characters in them and how they occupy the 3D space that they're in and so on, and how they affect the composition. So I think the next beat is like this. You could say that there's another beat somewhere in here too, but I think the next main beat is this, where he grabs the guy. So I'll grab this. Yeah, I'm gonna copy paste the grid that I made. Let's see here. There we go. So I want to make sure that I include like the head direction of the green guy right there. So I've got like this kind of cross shape for the front of his face, and then like this kind of line back here. I'm using the line of his glasses, but that's really just like the side plane of his head, the top plane, and so on. So our hero back over here. It's got him in a wrestling hold. Arm lock. Grabbing the top of his head. Go back a little bit and see what's happening here. Yeah, that's his leg there. Okay. Let's get a little bit of the composition of the orange dude back there, and navy blue right here for her. She's kind of moving in and making her move a bit. I would say that like this anticipation is almost kind of a beat itself. I'm not going to worry about like plotting out the whole thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, for my own purposes, I'm just going to like do a shorthand version of it, just of the details I want to study for this shot. I'm gonna bother with color coding it. I'm just gonna get like the basic expressions and stuff in shorthand really quick. So I feel the facial expressions are very important for the shot. And if you look at the storyboard, the rough storyboards for these, like some of them can go to like stick figure faces sometimes in order to communicate the idea quickly when they're just roughing it out quickly. I'll include a little bit of a freehand grid back there. That's a great pose right there. So same sort of thing. Now that I'm kind of like getting more into the swing of this, I'm just gonna start like roughing in kind of gestural drawing poses here now that I'm starting to get a good rhythm going on analyzing what's happening in these. The point of doing studies like these is like, what are you trying to get? What value are you trying to get out of doing a study? Sometimes you might be more focused on trying to understand color composition, or you might be more focused on how the perspective is working in the shot. So you might be a little bit more meticulous about the layout. Other times you might be trying to like simplify the composition into harsh lights and darks. Let's see here. Maybe I can set darker red on that hand and close up here. So I'm just going to put like an indication of. This is not very clear, but I'm gonna move on. His body goes slack actually there. So like something like this. It's kind of leaning that way. body goes slack. You can start making like as you like move through doing studies like these, you can start making like written notes about observations you're making about these studies that you do. So I don't think we'll do the rest of the sequence, but let's just take a look at what else is going on in there. So I want to move on to something else. Let's see. I want to maybe do, yeah, let's do this shot now. So I'm just going to jump right in without doing draw over studies. I'm just going to rough this out like really, really quickly. And if I redraw the scene instead of copy pasting it, hey, that's just more freehand perspective practice. I just want to get used to like throwing down an idea quickly, you know? Here's this guy's legs. Let's maybe fill that in a little bit. And then we get the shadow down here. It's okay to make these quick and dirty when you're just flying through them like this. So he walks towards the camera. But I'm going to try to pick a beat that would be good for doing this from. Let's maybe like right here. That. Shading his feet. Gonna move on to the next one. With his foot coming off here, I'm just gonna simplify what happens there a little bit. Like I'm gonna have an arrow coming up for his foot. There's more beats than what's going on here than what I'm making notes of, but I'm just trying to fly through this this quick study to kind of get an overview of stuff that's going on here. So I'm gonna have her like kind of sliding in here at the same time he's doing that for this study. He's got his other big foot over here. Just kind of. So this is not out of the question for like how you might draw like thumbnails for scene planning. So this is almost like kind of like quick thumbnail practice for how you would like jot down your ideas quickly before you you go back in and clean them up or punch them up so they read better for others. I'm gonna maybe get like this shot at the very least before we move on to another thing. This is a good framing composition. I like that like he's always at the center of the perspective of the 1-point perspective that's going on in these shots. So even when the camera angle changes, like our eye is immediately drawn in the direction of where the focus is, which is him. Yep, and the purpose of this scene is to remind you that, these people have lives. These people are civilians and stuff that are going off to fight against this coup. This coup that's kind of trivialized, like the reality of their own lives, basically. Just kind of want to mask that in place there. Maybe get like a little bit of more of a perspective grid. Freehand, roughed in, kind of. Actually, I'll do this shot too. This is a really good shot. This is a fisheye shot, by the way. You see how you can see how that it is a fisheye because of how like the perspective kind of bends at the borders a little bit. So we're not concerned about detail, we're just concerned about like the overall impression of the shot. Let's kind of get a quick read on it and kind of dip into understanding the mechanics of what's going on here. Like, remember what I told you about how, like, 5-point perspective works? You've got 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These ones across here cause this curving kind of effect here. And then there is also kind of a curving effect that happens on, like, coming out from here a little bit. You can see a little bit of that here. Everything just gets kind of blown out and warped in this. Gonna include a little indication of the direction of the shadow on her body a little bit. It's kind of a quick rough in. Baby's got a little bit of a shadow down here, but their face is pretty well lit. So I'll just thicken in the outline to differentiate the characters a little bit from the background. Do the same back over here a little bit. What time is it? It is 7:30 right now. Cool. So I'd love to take a look at what other people have been doing for studying this. We're going to be taking on the big kahuna in a little bit. The big montage scene of the coup mongers in Tokyo in the film. But I'm going to take a look and see what people are doing. So the reason why I'm doing this class today is because, like, I've been assigning people to do basically this for my Saturday class, but I haven't been able to make time to really kind of dig in and do this. So I decided, you know, what the hey, let's just make the Monday class this. And we'll probably do the same thing next week. Like cinematic studies on Monday, why not? Like kick off the week with getting people to wrap their heads around storyboarding and stuff. So probably do more of this next week on Monday. I'll try to figure out like more storyboarding stuff, more storyboarding like studies and analysis exercises that might go more in depth than this too. But this is a kind of a nice icebreaker for now. So let's see here. I'm going to take a look at what people have posted in the Discord chat. Nope, no one's posted anything in the Discord chat yet. But if you've got any studies to post and share, please do. So we're going to take on... Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go. Some little bit of the drawovers and copy studies and stuff. I would say like go back into these and try to find some way to differentiate the characters more, like kind of what I'm doing. I'm sort of feeling out how I'm approaching this a bit. Whether it be like color coding the characters, or maybe you can go back in and do something like what I'm doing right here. Like I differentiate the characters from the background a little bit more by making a thick outline around them, something like that. But the point of today is to just kind of play with the mechanics of storyboarding. So let's see here. Where's the... Oh yeah, I actually wanted to maybe use this shot. Something from here. Oh, maybe not. Let's see, I'm trying to find the one really famous sequence. I think this is it here. No. Give me a moment, folks. This one actually might be really good to do right here. This action scene with a lot of characters. Probably maybe do a couple panels of that. But I want to find like the big main one. Big montage. There it is. All right. So let's see, which segment of this should we do? This one for sure, I think. This is a challenging upside down shot. We have a multitude of perspectives going on here. Like, we have a perspective grid that is the mirror surface that we're looking up at, that functions basically as a reverse perspective grid that's mirroring the ground, which is showing a different angles of perspective. This is a pretty tricky shot. Let's maybe just like not worry about getting it completely right, but just like kind of wrap our heads around what's happening here a little bit with a quick sketch. So 1, 2, 3. Get rid of these. Let's get one line up there. One line about here-ish. One line about here. So lower opacity on that. This is a kind of an overlay on the shot though, but in any case, the real perspective that the ground is going by actually mirrors the mirror a little bit, now that I think about it. So there is a different like lines of perspective that this tiling is going on right here, but if you notice, like the perspective on this part of the ground right here is the same as the mirror. And you could rotate the scene to draw it upside down or a different angle, but I think it'd be fun to kind of just draw it like upside down here. So let's see here. Let's divide up the composition about how it's divided up there. Somewhere about here-ish. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. We're just kind of playing with what's going on here. So we got this soldier here. There's perspective from a vanishing point that's going up over that way here. Soldier's physical relationship to those other two is about something like that. This guy's a little bit higher than that line there. The feet placement is somewhere down around here. This guy that's over here. This guy's feet placement is off camera, like somewhere around down here. His head is riding really close to that line there. We're just roughing these guys in here. See the top of that guy's shoulder? I'm just kind of making a little cube shape there. We get this kind of like rough indications of their physical relationships. So I'll use a different color for the civilians that are behind them. So one lady like right here, kind of. They're kind of like framed at it's interesting, like the composition sort of frames them so they are like kind of like fragments of another movie, looking at fragments of another movie. Like the composition kind of frames their heads a little bit, and it also frames like their midsections of their body, and then like you get kind of individual vignettes of the soldiers almost. It's like we're seeing individual kind of warped panels of a painting or scenes from or like warped panels of scenes from a film. So she's looking over at them. He's looking at her. Kind of a little indication there for myself. And I'll use like kind of a light blue for the characters that are walking by in the shot. I'll just kind of indicate them lightly. This lady's got her feet like right around here, I think. Lady walking off camera there. She's moving over that way. This businessman over here, make him like a different shade of blue. Trench coat. His legs going down there. He's heading over that way. It's another character that's walking. I'll use maybe like a light green or something for that other one. Another character that's kind of walking and vanishing off the frame. This portion of the frame right here, which is like the non-reflected surface that we're looking from what the camera is looking up at. Part of the sky, or actually I think that's like part of the sky down there, like a building. It's like this is a building and then that's the sky. Do a couple shots from this. Like this one, I'm not gonna, you don't have to worry about mirroring like the entire surface. the building, but this one is a good opportunity to do a little bit of freehand perspective on like just like the overall kind of 3D shape of the building. So we got this structure here, changing angles like that. This is a moving shot, so it's going to be moving across the paint, across the screen. I'm not worried about like getting completely accurate with it. We just want like a rough, we just want like a rough idea of it. It's just like a quick little bit of freehand practice to differentiate angles in freehand really fast. Let's fly through them now. So this one, we'll just do this one really fast. Kind of displaced panels. The side of a skyscraper. It's a little bit of an indication of like these buildings back there that are sort of being refracted and distorted by the light. I'm not going to be exact with them. Just kind of want to fill in a general idea of what the composition is here. Think like a green for the chopper that's coming in here. Kind of looped around to the beginning, but I think I want to do this one. Wait, but where to do it? Let's at least do this. I don't know if I do it if I do the scene with the subway doors opening, but let's at least like do a quick compositional study of this. So the center of the door frame is like right in the middle of the frame, right in the dead center. Framing all the people that are about to come out of the subway. You don't really need to put a perspective grid in for this one, although it does exist back there. You can kind of see it a bit. Like, you can see the back windows of the subway and stuff. But let's maybe use a red color right here for indicating the people in the subway. There's four people there. Like one head, one head, one head. There's a guy right here. Shoulder of someone there. Guy behind him there. You can see him wearing a mask too. Lady behind him. This man kind of mirrors the pose of the other guy right here. You can see that there's this guy right here who is in center frame. His face is being covered up by the front of the door. There's this guy that's elderly gent with balding hair who's really evidently being squished in there. Back of this guy's head there. Another back of someone's head back there. There's like the barest indication of that side of that guy's face. Shoulder of someone else there. And another back of someone's head with another body and a head over there. Let's take a look at where this goes. It's interesting to see the continuity with all these characters in the animation too. You're like watch, you can watch each of the individual characters in this little sequence here as they're exiting the subway. Yeah, I'm not gonna draw the whole scene out, but I want to make kind of like a note. Like that everyone kind of like flows out of the subway. And there's more like the way that they are moving out from the subway, more of them are favoring moving screen right. Like there's more kind of a mass of them on the screen right when it cuts than screen left. Which hooks into the next scene. So you see like this lady moving to the screen right, that guy's moving screen right, these guys are moving screen right. You get a few guys moving screen left, but most of them are moving screen, the dominant majority of them are moving screen right. That cuts into this scene right here where they're all moving screen right there. So it gets a little less visually confusing. Let's do like a really quick compositional study of the perspective in this shot. So these characters are all moving in 3-point perspective, looking up at the building back behind them, which is playing an animation loop of some cranes flying off. Looks like. Let's get some red. So I'm gonna worry about indicating everyone in here, but let's at least get like an indication of some people kind of slightly warped how they would be if they were in perspective. Very slightly. Let's get up here. Get him blocked in. Let's get some lines here kind of going towards the vanishing point, sort of. Then there's this bridge shot here. We can kind of mass in the tank here. The tank is a really big, bulky compositional piece. Let's mass that in with a dark line real fast. Then we got this overpass bridge in perspective here. This walkway bridge looks like. The traffic lights are another kind of compositional device. I'm not going to worry about too much about their detail. I'm just going to indicate that there. Some buildings in the backdrop. So there's this crowd of kids down here. Out the tank. There's an adult. It's kind of walking by, watching the scene unfold. There's also a military guy right here. If you notice, the military guy is like right at the eye level of the kids. Right here. This is an interesting shot because it's like the kids don't quite understand what's going on, and the military guy is like the military guy who's part of the coup thinks that he's like on the good guy side. So there's this kind of ignorant innocence going on here on both ends a little bit. And there's also like the motif of like a flock of birds being used here with those kids. They look a lot like the flock of seagulls that you see later in the film. And they show off a little bit of the technology of the film here. Like this guy's actually got like a head tracking device on the tank there for surveying the area. Let's maybe use light blue for the kids here. Let's kind of mask them in a little bit. There's a lot of them, and we're just trying to get a general impression of the shot. So I'll just kind of mask them in there. And there's this scene with the dog. It's like there's a lot of recurring motif going on here with characters that are ignorant of the implications of what's going on, like whether it be a dog, whether it be children, whether it be civilians just trying to like hunker down and get on with their lives and stuff. Like the general public is kept in the dark in the film story by the media of what's going on, of the full details of what's going on. And then also animals are great ways to kind of show like animals in films where there's like big momentous events like this happening are often used to kind of like show how like nature doesn't really give a shit about what humanity's doing, like the politics and geopolitics that we're doing. Like animals in the earth, the planet, are just going to keep going on regardless, and the earth doesn't really care about the vanities of whatever man is doing. So I'm going to include maybe like an indication of the shadow in this shot. So we're going to do a few more panels of these, and then we'll go over some of the stuff that we're going to be covering some more for some of the upcoming classes here. Next Wednesday will be a return to timed figure poses, and tomorrow in my Discord we will be doing basically prep for Wednesday. We'll be doing like more of the gesture drawing type stuff that we've been continually working on with the Alex Wu Schoolism stuff tomorrow. Oh, that's a really, really nice shot right here. For sure. Yeah, don't be afraid to like, just when you're like doing cinematic studies, they don't have to be perfectly clean, manicured studies. You can eventually like work towards doing that stuff, but if you're just trying to like understand what's happening in the shot a little bit, don't be afraid to like just dig in and like play with it a bit. Like here, there's this guy right here who's kind of moved in shadow. He's sort of silhouetted partly. Yeah, he's moving out from the shadow there. Maybe I'll put him there. Let's use the black silhouette framing device here. Draw some thinner lines for the other stuff that's happening back in there. Let's get like some indications of the composition back in there. But there's that recurring motif of like birds in this film. Like people looking at the monitor up here, fantasizing about leaving the city. Basically. That got a little bit too big there, I think. So anyway, today was kind of an experimental class. I kind of wanted to break the ice on getting people to do cinematic studies. So post some more in chat. We're definitely going to do more of these tomorrow before we warm up into doing figure drawing. Yeah, today was an icebreaker. Today has been an icebreaker class on getting started on doing cinematic studies from films. We'll be doing some more of them in my Discord tomorrow. I'm going to take a look at what people have done so far, and then we're going to close out for the evening. So if you got anything to post them now. Looks like somebody's doing a glitch text study there, in addition to the Patlabor stuff. Breaking names down in multiple layers so I can understand the 3D space a little better. Yeah, sure. I mean, like, do it however you can. This is your opportunity to kind of roughly play with this stuff. It's going to take a little bit kind of adjustment, including for myself, for doing these studies. But here, let me show you. I want to point people in the direction of some really. You don't have to make studies as clean as what I'm about to show you, but like this is. I'm going to show you like what like storyboard studies will start to look like when you start settling into a rhythm of how you approach them and how you do them. Like these ones by Amber Blade Jones of like Cowboy Bebop, for example, where they like they made notes about what the camera's doing and like what's going on in the shots. They make notes about composition and the type of shots that are being used and so on. And they use like very simple kind of gestural indications of the characters and the posing. You don't have to get overly detailed with it. There's a bunch of other studies that they've done on their account too that are good to look at. Well, that's not one. Yeah, some Spartacus action studies, for example. This stuff from Mysterious Cities of Gold right here. This is a very cleanly laid out study. This is the kind of stuff you would do when you like sit down to like really think about what you're going to be doing for the study. What we did today was we just kind of did like an overview, sketchy, quick, kind of make observational notes, run through the images, kind of think about what the storytelling is in them, what the composition is, and so on. So we'll be doing some more of these tomorrow before we start doing figure drawing. But I wanted to kind of get people, like people started on doing this stuff because I've been assigning doing these continually as homework on my Saturday classes, but I think it would be a good idea for us to make doing these part of our weekly thing. So Mondays we will be doing stuff in this vein. Whether it be like specifically cinematic studies or whether it be using some kind of mechanic of making storyboard panels. That will be the study subject of Monday's classes going forward. Yeah, that's nice. That's a good study right there. For sure. That's a good study. Like for these, you're not trying to make good. Remember, you're not trying to make good drawings. Although getting a little bit of drawing practice and can be helpful too. But you're trying to record information, so you successfully did that here, like the making notes about the light and the dark. I think there's more contrast in the light and the dark side here than what you had, but yeah, that's a good study. Yeah, this is us just getting the ball rolling on trying to like approach this, and we'll like narrow down what it is we're like the method and approach we take that we're practicing. But I just wanted to get people like over the idea of being scared of doing these. But the point is just to kind of like meditate on what is the composition of what's the storytelling of the film, what are the mechanics being used to lay out the shot. And you don't have to be scared about doing like a perfect study. You can just like sketch it out really quick and dirty and think about stuff, think about what's happening in it. You put it in your visual library from doing studies like these for stuff you could potentially use in your own work. And remember, if you think your drawings are too crude, I invite you to look at what the original storyboards looked like for this film before it got turned into like this. It's all about just like getting the idea down quickly. So keep that in mind. So yeah, thanks for coming for today. We're gonna wrap things up now. I hope you got something out of this experimental Monday class. Wednesday we will be resuming the regular gesture drawing stuff, but from now on, Monday is going to be our messing with the mechanics of storyboarding day, where we'll be either doing cinematic studies or using some other kind of mechanic tool of storyboarding to that we'll practice, whether it be like doing perspective drills or compositional studies or cinematic studies, or trying to come up with beat panels or something. I wanted to devote at least one day to actually like sitting down with people in here and actually trying to play with the mechanics of putting stuff together into storyboard panels. So we'll probably do, like I said, we'll probably do cinematic studies, and we'll probably also do like a little bit of like coming up with our own story ideas. Oh, that's very nice. Yeah. These are like more in the vein of compositional studies, I would say, than anything else. But yeah, this is like breaking down. There's like these reverse storyboards kind of things are great ways to sort of play with the language of filmmaking and like do dress rehearsals of stuff you might use on similar shots for your own work. I mean, as people start doing more studies like these, I want people to start thinking about how can I like take an idea, something that I've studied, and remix some of the mechanics of it for my own work. So with this in mind, I'm going to show people the congratulations screen, but with of course the twist that I've been showing a little bit lately, which is this. Of course, the original storyboard panels for the infamous congratulations scene in Evangelion. So, congratulations, all of you guys who stuck around to the end. We'll be meeting again tomorrow in Discord for more practice mileage on both figures and compositional studies, and we'll be meeting again on Wednesday for a timed figure pose class in gesture drawing.
Congratulations! 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 Congratulations!
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!